Saludos, my friends. My name is Jacinto Ramos Jr., joining you from Fort Worth, Funky Town, Texas. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you today. While it's virtually, I'll take what I can get. Before I get started, I want to make sure that we take a quick second to recognize and acknowledge that our ancestors are with us. I'm leaning on them right now for wisdom. I'm leaning on them right now for support. And most importantly, I'm leaning on them for a lot of love. So, a little bit about me. My dad is Jacinto Ramos from Acuña, Coahuila, which is a border town across from Del Rio, Texas. My mom is from Morelia, Michoacan, a town deep down south in Mexico. Actually, she's from a little indigenous town called Jerko, and that's where we actually identify my indigenous bloodline, the Perupechas. Hopefully, I'll tell you about that a little bit more. I'm here joining you from my neighborhood. People would call it the hood. I don't mind that term at all because I say it with a lot of love. I've got my partner Anita of over 23 years, my high school sweetheart, and I've got our three sons. Juan Marcos, who graduated from college last year, another son, my middle son, who's a senior at the university, both of them Texas Christian University, and our youngest one, Andres Samuel, who's a sophomore in high school. So as you can imagine, this topic is still very much so near and dear to my heart. So I want to tell you that I've heard wonderful things about you and the work that you've been doing. And I hope that in this sharing of my story and the message that I have for you, that we can have a lot more things in common than not. And even the things that we may not have in common, I'll share some of the lines that my mentors have given me. Differences don't mean deficits to me. I actually really do genuinely celebrate differences from other people and other human beings. And I always look at that as an opportunity to learn and grow. Nothing was to tell me that I had to be limited to certain people in my entire life. I think that's the beauty of the advantage that I've had to be able to do the things that I've been doing. And I hope that I can share some of that messaging with you today. My neighborhood was one of the top 10 worst zip codes in the state of Texas, based on poor education, poor health care, and a heck of a lot of crime. Not an environment, a neighborhood that people would have said they wanted to be raised in. But it didn't faze me. I had what we call protective factors. I had familia. I had comunidad. And I had, luckily, a pretty good level of education that was put in front of me. Unfortunately, that wasn't by way of the public school. That was by way of a Catholic private school that was offered to me because of football and athletics. And part of it also because I fit an agenda and a quota to have more brown people, more Latinos and Latinas come to that school. But I shall not digress. So, my neighborhood, where I'm at right now, joining you, I've gotten to serve as a youth minister. I served a number of decades for that, 2 decades specifically. I also did 21 years as a juvenile probation officer, a career that I thoroughly loved, not because I was incarcerating young people, but because I worked overtime to try to keep young people out of the juvenile justice system. And I worked 12 years as a gang interventionist in my neighborhood and in other neighborhoods here in Fort Worth. I work with brown, Asian, Black, biracial, multiracial communities and young people of all walks of life here in this town, in this community. And I'm going to tell you that I had way more stories of love and success than I did of those where I visited plenty of juvenile facility prisons and also those that I visited at the funeral homes. Those are my traumatic days. So I really choose to cling on to the ones where so many great things happen. And I watched a lot of young people make changes in their lives to be able to redirect themselves into a more positive outlet situation. Many of those young people are still in my life. So why would I be a keynote? Why would I be sharing with you a story if I come from a private school, if I come from a functioning home of two-parent household, not necessarily low income, but also not necessarily full-blown middle class? And the truth is probably because I decided to do something wild, which was run for school board here in Fort Worth, Texas. But the story isn't that I got elected and what I did, what I'm doing to get there. It's what I did when I got that power. And so I want to share with you a brief message of how my most formative years, Black men, brown men, white men, women came into my life and really helped change my mental model on how I perceive the world and got me to a different level of understanding on how this world may be functioning. So that's what I want to share with you today. There are stages in racial identity. And this is research, but I'm just going to try to break it down as simply as I can. I want you to reflect on where you might be. And the reason I'm going to ask you to process what your racial identity looks like, I also want you to understand that race is a social construct. And if you don't know what that means, I'll encourage you to use your devices to Google it. Google terms such as, what is the origin of Caucasian? And you're going to be looking for two names. I'll give you the cheat sheet version. You're going to be looking for Johann Blumenbach, Christoph Meiners. See what the internet tells you. I want you to Google, were George Washington's teeth really made out of wood? To give you the cheat sheet version, and again, I'm going to encourage you to go look it up for yourself, just to verify what I'm telling you. But you're going to find out that George Washington's teeth, his dentures actually, he wore dentures that they were actually partly made out of slaves' teeth. And not dead slaves, but living slaves. I want to intrigue you and capture you in a way, the way people did for me, to take me down this path to understand how I'm showing up in this world. Is it working for me? Is it not working for me? I want you to ask yourself the questions, can I name 5 white people that made this country what it is? Most young people are able to name me 5 white men, and they usually reference them as our founding fathers. I'd like you to take a moment to also think, and even maybe write down or put in the chat. Can you name 5 white, not 5 white, but can you name 5 black people that made this country what it is? Most young people will give me Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and so on and so forth, which is not a bad thing because you can at least name 5 white and 5 black. But if you identify as Latino, Latina, Chicano, Chicana, Latinx, Hispanic, whatever term you prefer to use, mind you that there's a bunch of them. Can you name 5 people that help make this country what it is? And not all young people and not all even adults in education can name 5 Latino, Latina people that help make this country what it is. Here in Texas and in the Southwest, I'll be lucky if I can get Cesar Chavez and maybe Dolores Huerta. But I won't get too much further than that. And then add another one. Name me 5 Asian Americans that help make this country what it is. And I teach at the university, my friends. And even at the university level, I can't even get 1 Asian American. And I'd hope that you can at least give me 2 or 3 of them. But if you can't name them all of Latino, Latina, and or Asian American, or even indigenous Americans, right, or indigenous peoples, I want to tell you it's not your fault. That is the evidence I can provide to you that this is systemic. And while it's the most explosive topic to be talking about systemic racism, I want to encourage you to lean into just speaking your truth. And you speaking your truth gives you an opportunity to be able to do what we call the counter narrative, which that is the most powerful weapon that you have, to tell it like it is. And as young people have always told me, to keep it 100. So I'll give you the briefest version I can about racial identity. I want to give it to you in 5 stages. And understand that these are fluid. It's possible for you to be in more than one at any given time. And I want you to reflect on where you think you might be. I also want you to reflect on where you might have been, and maybe even as of recently where you may have been. And if none of the stages apply to you, no love lost. Know that I brought you some academic material. If it didn't resonate, I didn't do my job today. So here we go. Stage 1, and I'm only going to zero on people of color because people of color are the majority in this country. Stage 1, you're a person of color who believes that you're better than your own people and your own kind. Stage 1, you're in conformity, which means that you're like saying, well, I'm not like one of them. So in my neighborhood, people like that say, well, I'm not one of them Mexicans, or I'm not one of them wetbacks, whatever derogatory I want to use, whatever term I want to use, because I want to disassociate myself. I want to pull away. I'm not one of them kind of people. What you're really trying to say is, I'm a little bit better. And if you want to be real, I get along with white systems a little bit better than I do my own kind. But understand this, that when you look down on your own community and your own people, you have been socialized and conditioned to probably view it that way. So if you're a 1 right now, I'm not tripping. I'm just hoping to jolt you into consciousness and help you understand that that is not a way for us to get to solutions in our communities. Stage 2, people of color. It's what we call dissonance. Stage 2 means that you're just awakening, you becoming conscious. Now, if you've grown up in the hood, in the barrio, I don't even know that you've been a 1 or a 2 fully, because you might have already been jolted into higher levels of consciousness, which is not a bad thing. But a 2 simply means that you're coming into the realization that your people in your community, you're not all treated the same, and there's something wrong with the systems that surround us. Stage 3, it's called resistance and immersion. Stage 3, people of color, and even specifically for you, young men that are in this space, you're those of you that are rooted. You love it. If you're Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican, any form of person of color, if you're Black, you embrace it. You love it. Shoot, look at my back wall. Look what I got around me. It's showing you that at least I'm a 3, because I'm proud of who I am and where I came from. It's the line that my mentor gave me. He said, you can't love the fruit if you don't love the roots. Well, heck, my friends, I love my fruit and I love my roots. Hence the painting that sits behind me that the young people painted for me. So in the 3, there's goods and bads, and let's just be real. The good is that you embrace and you love who you are and where you come from. The bad can be that if you start blaming other people, particularly even white people. Yeah, white powerful men back in the day created these systems. But white people that are sitting next to me or that are with me in my love and in support, they ain't necessarily the bad people. So let's just keep it right where it needs to be. We're going to get upset with the systems that surround us, not all white people. So you can also understand that stage 1s and 3s like to battle it out. In my neighborhood, 1s are called coconuts. They're brown on the outside and white on the inside. Stage 3s are typically labeled radicals and militants. Shoot, I've been called those things. But 1s and 3s is what people say, that's why we're throwing down. We can't get along. We don't support each other. But I want you to academically be able to process and understand and say, this is wrong. This isn't cool. This isn't how it's supposed to be. And this isn't the way we're going to move forward. Now I'm going to jump to a 4. A 4 can only happen after you've already hit a 3 to some degree. You got to have pride in who you are. You got to like your skin color, your hair, your eyes, your everything. Shoot, I can't even grow a full beard. That's not because I'm white or because I'm Mexican. It's because of my indigenous bloodline. I am of the Purupicha people. We're the only indigenous people that were never conquered by the Aztecs, i.e., they're really called the Mexicas, where the term Mexico and Chicano, Chicana came from. But you see, I couldn't have known that until I hit a 3, and I learned who I was and where I came from, and I was proud of it. I didn't reject it and I didn't deny it. So 4, it means that I'm in an eclectic phase. It means that I see that this world is bigger than just my own people. This world is huge, and I want to go see as much of it as possible. Better yet, I want to learn from as many people as possible. And a 5 is integrative awareness, which means that I'm a 3 because I know who I am and I know where I come from. I'm a 4 because I want to be fed and I want to learn from everybody else around me, even if they're different from me, because differences don't mean deficits. And the 5 means that I ain't code switching no more. I ain't got to mix it up, that I'm going to work to show up as authentically as I possibly can be in these settings, because keeping it 100 is really a good thing. Then I can show up in spaces to be authentically myself, not have to mispronounce my name. Yes, my name is Jacinto Ramos Jr. I'm the son of Jacinto and Carmen. I don't have to negotiate that. I can say that from the pulpit. I can say that from the mountaintop. And if you don't like it, I ain't tripping. Maybe we just ain't ready to interact. Because young people, I know that you're watching me as I'm watching you. We are watching, and our elders and our ancestors are watching us right now. If I spend the majority of my years on this earth trying to submit to a system that doesn't value me, then I might as well go on and get educated and become a real menace to society and be an educated person of color that knows how to infiltrate and redirect resources and change this whole system up. And at the end of the day, my friends, that's what I'm going to leave you with. I don't need you to be another soldier in this country. I don't need you to be another person who subscribes to conformity. I'm looking for you to be the leader that I know you are now, and to use those tools to change the world. Because young people, you change the world. Look at the history books, riddled with young people who pushed for change, didn't wait on someone else to do it, but they themselves did it. Young people, Mucha suerte, mucho amor, mucho cariño. Desde Fort Worth, Texas, les mando un abrazote. I love you and I appreciate the work that you're doing. Please keep it up. I hope to see you one day in person, en persona, because I value you dearly. To all the adults that are helping make this happen, much love to you. Keep it up. Holler at us in Texas anytime we can support you. Ahí nos vemos. And as we say, hashtag, así derechito. Keep moving forward, my friends. Adios.